Welcome to the Resilient Butterfly Podcast. My goal is to share inspiring stories of healing and recovery through many diverse approaches and models. Our guests bring incredible lived experiences, insights, and/or professional expertise, each with their own unique path. While we highlight and celebrate these stories, our intention is to inform, inspire, and demonstrate resilience and creativity. This podcast does not endorse any one approach. We believe there is more than one way to heal, and we're here to showcase the resilience and possibilities that exist. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Resilient Butterfly. I am your host, Pam Feinberg-Rivkin, and I am really happy to have you back to listen. There are so many different things that are going to be talked about today. In this space, we explore stories of transformation, how people rise from life's most difficult moments with courage, insight, and often a surprising sense of purpose. And today's episode is especially meaningful to me because I have the honor of speaking with someone who walked alongside me during one of the most challenging chapters of my life. In June 2020, I was diagnosed for the second time, but this had gone from stage 3 to stage 4 colorectal cancer with liver metastasis. And as I began navigating the overwhelming maze of treatments and decisions, I contacted Dr. Jen Green, a naturopathic physician and integrative oncology expert. With compassion, calm, and deep clinical expertise, Dr. Green guided me through a supplemental approach that supported my body during chemotherapy and beyond. I have been in remission since November 2020, and her insight was a meaningful part of that journey. Dr. Green is a board-certified naturopathic oncologist, fellow of the American Board of Naturopathic Oncology, and we'll go into what that all means, an internationally respected leader in integrative cancer care. With more than 25 years of experience in integrative oncology, Dr. Green has dedicated her career to blending evidence-based natural therapies with conventional care in a safe, collaborative, and patient-centered way. She founded the naturopathic department at Beaumont Hospitals in Michigan in 2008, serving as the department head for 5 years, one of the earliest and most innovative hospital integrative oncology programs in the United States. I am welcoming Dr. Green. I call her Jen, and she's a very, very special person. Thank you for being here and agreeing to this. And I think there's a lot for people to learn here.
It's an honor to be here. Thank you, Pam.
So you and I began working in June 2020. And when you meet with a new oncology patient, what is the first priority that you see?
Being present, I would say, is always the first priority, because in order to fully listen and help identify what their main needs are, we have to be present with ears open. So I would say that's the top one. And, we use the language patient-centered care or person-centered care in medicine and in oncology specifically a lot. And it's much harder to put into practice. It's much harder to sit and not jump in with our own agenda right from the get-go.
Absolutely.
Right. Because, you do have these small agendas. You'd like to help manage side effects. You'd like to, there's some nitty-gritties that certainly are part of the overall goals. But starting with where the person is at and what they're really needing from yourself as a clinician in that moment is where it begins.
So with me, I had already gone through treatment in 2017. And as you recall, I had to go to your partner because I worked with your partner in that period of time because you were on maternity leave. Was that what that? You were on leave, or I'm not sure, 2017. So that would have been 8-9 years ago. That wouldn't have been maternity leave.
No, too late for maternity. They're already out of the house.
So anyway, interesting enough, I followed the guidelines then, but didn't embrace it to continue after I was done with treatment. I was done. It took me probably a year to recuperate from everything
Yeah.
because I had chemo and then I had radiation. Well, no, excuse me, surgery, chemo,
Surgery. Mhm.
radiation, and then another surgery. And it was very debilitating at the time.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
I just wanted it to be done and I wanted to be normal. And when it hit me again in 2020 and it was stage 4, like, okay, there's got to be a change in my life. And part of
Mhm.
that change was really working side by side with integrative oncology
Mhm.
partner such as yourself. And so I was really happy to be able to do that and really then know it wasn't about just during treatment. It was after treatment.
Yeah, I would say that survivorship plans are a pretty large part of what most of us do in the space, in the integrative oncology space. And in creating a good survivorship plan, it encompasses all of the values of integrative oncology. You're individualizing the care, you're addressing all of the foundational lifestyle pieces: exercise, nutrition, healthy relationships, sleep, stress management, meaning and purpose,
Mm-hmm.
right? Each of those is its own distinct area that needs to be addressed to whatever degree, with the unique person that you're working with. And so, yeah, exactly. Survivorship plans are really a foundational piece of the work.
Well, that's what I have found for sure. And I continue to work with you, not on a
Mhm.
very frequent basis do I need to, because I am in in remission, yay. And I
Mhm.
continue to do the things that, as you talked about, purpose. This is one of my purposes here, bringing people on who are resilient, and that is myself. And why I started it, it was like there are other people who are resilient and giving hope to those that are just beginning to feel whatever pain there is in their life, whether it's alcohol addiction or drug addiction or cancer or any other type of debilitating or trauma-based work, mental health, all of this. And
Mhm.
to have that ability to have the exercise, the nutrition, the sleep, the purpose, the supplements if need be,
Mhm. Mhm.
and on to continue to build what that is to continue to be healthy and healthier. And I would say right now, I feel the healthiest I have in a very, very long time.
That's the goal. That's the goal. Isn't it amazing?
So let's go back to what it
Yeah.
means to be an naturopathic and integrative oncologist.
Yeah. So there is an Oncology Association of Naturopathic Physicians. So that's a website that's, worth knowing about in terms of finding local referrals, because it is a subspecialty to work in cancer care, and it requires pretty total dedication, to be honest, just because to learn the conventional oncology pieces deeply requires a definite commitment and an ongoing commitment, because the research is so rapidly evolving in the space, much more rapidly evolving than in other areas of medicine, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
Cancer care also has way more new drug approvals than other spaces. So again, it requires a nimbleness. It requires critical appraisal skills for research. I'm also a research director for an organization called KNOW, knowOncology.org, which is a database and a web-based educational tool that systematically searches and categorizes all human studies on nutrition or a natural agent and cancer care. So that's invaluable in making clinical decision making. And it's, we've had that database for not almost 9 years now, and to watch the research explode, and also the quality of the research, frankly, better research design as well, has been remarkable. And frankly, if you don't have a tool to kind of keep you up to date, it becomes almost unmanageable as a clinician. And so, I really see naturopathic oncologists. So there's, I don't know the exact numbers, but I would say somewhere in the order of 200 between US and Canada who are board certified in oncology. So have, written exams in the area, and we recertify every 10 years.
That's not very many people, 200 for two
No,
different.
it isn't. Yeah, but it's an extremely, and then there's, I would say, another 300 that are part of the association who might not have 100% of their practice dedicated to oncology, but have enough of their practice that they join and are active on the listserv and come to the conferences. And that community of naturopathic physicians is extremely dedicated, heart-centered, evidence-informed, just thought leaders, I would say, as well, in this space. And, we talk about comprehensive cancer care centers in a conventional sense. And many of us share the same dream of every comprehensive cancer center, in order to be comprehensive, should have a naturopathic physician on staff to be that herb drug expert, because these are not the complex decision-making that goes into a herb drug interaction concern is not something that can be made without taking into consideration the person in front of you, their risk tolerance, the oncology team's risk tolerance, their clinical situation. I mean, there's a million moving parts. And so often that decision, might get bounced to an oncology pharmacist who's never even met the person and doesn't have a sense of their other health concerns, whether they're diabetic or not, whether there's not, and they do their best, but we're putting staff in an unfair position in the cancer care space when we don't have someone dedicated to herb drug interactions and to integrative oncology specifically as part of that quote unquote comprehensive cancer care center. So that's a dream for many of us. And there are a whole bunch of systems, I think at least 7 now, that have naturopathic physicians on staff who are board certified. So that's exciting.
It's
but we
good to
need
hear.
more.
Yeah.
It's good. It's a good start. It's a good start.
So I want to go back to how do you even become a naturopathic physician, and what is the number of years that where are these colleges that you go to, the universities, or where do you get your studies from?
Yes. And we're actually seeing some mergers between the different colleges. So we've got 2 locations, Vancouver and Toronto, for the Canadian School, Canadian College of Naturopathic Medicine and Boucher. We also have Bastyr University in Seattle, NUHS in Chicago, Sonoran, which is in Phoenix, Arizona, and then National, which is in Portland, Oregon. And we might be seeing some merges of some of the U.S. Colleges. You need to have 4 years of undergrad, and you have to have pre-med requirements in order to get into naturopathic medical school. It's a very small profession. I liken us to the osteopaths, but 10 or 15 years ago. So like DOs, we do have a distinct scope. There's a lot of conventional training that we receive, right? Differential diagnosis, pathology, and whatnot. But instead of focusing on pharmaceuticals to the extent that conventional physicians do, we are also trained in nutrition, herbal medicine, or botanical medicine, as it's sometimes called, mind-body medicine, lifestyle counseling, homeopathy, and some of the schools will teach traditional Chinese medicine, although that's a more minor part. And the scope really varies from state to state, because even though we're federally recognized as primary care providers, some states have licensing and some do not. And so what you're able to prescribe and do in different states varies widely. And then in order to practice, you need to pass NPLEX exams, which are similar to MPLEX exams in medicine. And thankfully for me, having moved from Canada, those are North American-wide exams that once you write them,
that's great.
You're done. But if you want to move on to specialize in oncology, you either have to be doing an oncology residency, which didn't actually exist when I was graduated in 2000. I had done a cross-training grant with Sick Kids Hospital and done some research work with them and taught some evidence-based medicine courses as part of that grant process. But after that, in order to qualify to write and sit your naturopathic oncology boards, you need to either have done a 2-year full-time residency or been working for 5 to 10 years and demonstrated a whole bunch of case studies in the field. Yeah.
So it's not a home study.
It's definitely not a home study. That's a great, yes. It's definitely, it takes a village to learn
I wanted to bring that out
Yes,
because it is
yes.
what really impressed me is the research that you do and the knowledge that you had on the supplements that you were giving me, recommending for me to use. And it really, like I am working with someone who is brilliant and who knows this and has really carried me into my life. So the other part of it is not a naturopathic oncology doesn't replace treatment. So I went through the same treatment, but was able to get through the treatment better and with greater outcomes with the recommendations that you provided for me.
Yes, yes, thank you. The goal is to work synergistically, both to help manage side effects so people are stronger, so their immune system is more intact throughout treatment, and also to optimize the outcomes. And as time moves on, we get to see what areas the needle is being moved in terms of improving survival outcomes. And that's always everyone's end game. We just want to stack all the odds in someone's favor and use the best of all possible worlds. Naturopathic oncologists are bridges between conventional oncology and the integrative complementary medicine world. We really are that bridge. And in order to be that bridge, you have to speak the language.
Sure.
Of all ends of the spectrum.
So I want the listeners to know that in addition to receiving the supplements and going through that and anything else that I was doing for my immunity to go through, I did go through a second more chemo in 2020, and then I had a liver ablation, which then fortunately with everything that I was doing has and continued to do. Being able to really do the things that I want to do. And not everyone has the pleasure to do that. But I think with some really good coaching and or therapy for your mind-body connection of what is your purpose in life? And you don't have to be on the same treadmill or rat race that you were before. I didn't know how to get off it. The hamster wheel. I just kept going round and round and round because that's all I knew until I didn't. And I couldn't or wouldn't anymore. I could, but maybe not survive. So there's so much, it's complex.
Yeah, and rich. And that, I mean, part of what you're speaking to, which, post-traumatic growth is often what it's called in the research, is profound, is perhaps some of the greatest life lessons we can experience.
Yeah, and that's a spiritual growth, post-traumatic growth. For me, it has been a spiritual growth. For others may relate it to something else, but for me, it's been a spiritual growth.
Yeah, I think for most people, actually. Yeah,
so,
for myself included.
Yeah, I want to go through that and your own personal journey because you are a cancer survivor yourself. How did you, what did you do when you were diagnosed?
It's so interesting. I mean, other than be in shock because
we all in shock. No, it doesn't happen to me.
Part of the process. Yes, it is part of the process. One of my thoughts very early on was this is a divine curriculum. And I'm not going to argue with the divine curriculum, whatever it is. So that just bubbled up very early. And the other thought I remember driving in the car, you make these promises to yourself. I made a promise to myself that I wouldn't take it personally if this was actually cancer. I'm grateful to that part of me. That was a wise part that made that promise, because it is so tempting, especially for women, but men as well, to blame ourselves for a cancer diagnosis. And I think
And
it's
there's
really important.
and not only blame ourselves, but there are others that say, oh, maybe they did something in their life that this is what they deserve. And that
Mhm.
is
Mhm.
horrific when you,
Horrific and
horrific.
toxic.
Yeah.
Yes.
So those people can stay away
Yes.
and in their own
Yeah.
little bubble of what they would like to think of the world.
Mhm.
But go on with then what?
Yeah. So I was diagnosed with what's called an oropharyngeal cancer. So it was a tonsillar cancer, an HPV positive one, thankfully. So when it's virally induced, they're very, very sensitive to radiation. So, and head and neck cancer, having worked with it for many years as well, prior to my diagnosis, I was aware that it would be vicious, but I was also aware that it would be short, the treatment. And so, um, I just feel so unbelievably grateful for integrative medicine because I know my suffering would have been far, far greater had I not had all of the resources and supports with nutrition and exercising regularly and medical hypnosis for pain management and all of the mind body therapies and acupuncture. I mean, I mobilized the troops. And I learned a lot, of course, because it was a divine curriculum. One of the things that I learned, which I knew intellectually, but really didn't get as deeply as I understand it now, is the importance of community support and connection. How much of a lifeline it would be on those rough chemo days to get a text from a friend or a family member. How that giving and receiving of love would be almost necessary like food.
Sure.
And that we should not underestimate our impact on our loved ones who are going through cancer because it is a lifeline for them in many or most cases. Um,
Yeah,
yeah,
I
yeah.
think when I look back at it, this is one of the lessons I learned in the first time around, and
Hmm.
continue to learn in 2020 is that I was always give, give, give because I was a nurse and I went into nursing for a reason, and I felt that was the best way that I could learn, live my life. And I've learned since that it's not, because you can't just go one-sided. You have to receive. And for the first time in my life, was able to receive. And I have to say that I didn't recognize that beauty in my husband to be able to give to me. He's given to me a lot of things in my life, but he always shunned hospitals and medical
Hmm.
treatment, but when it came down to it, he was the giver during those periods of
Hmm.
time. And it is so, so important to have someone, whether it is a spouse or a family member or, as you say, community. It doesn't have to
Hmm.
be a relative.
Hmm. Yeah. And that I like you, I had that same learning. Oh my gosh, how to learn how to receive
Mm,
and to understand that receiving is a generosity,
yeah.
right? That you're allowing people to participate in your life, to be there for you at a time of vulnerability. It creates intimacy.
Mm,
So actually receiving is being generous in the relationship.
absolutely. And
Yeah.
people are grateful to be able to give in times like
Yes.
that.
We all know how good it feels to give.
Right.
So we want to give people that opportunity
So
by
let
being
people
on the receiving end of that in and out cycle that,
let people
it's a
in.
mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And your ability to bounce back
Mm-hmm.
from all of the treatment that you had and whatever,
Mm-hmm.
how long do you think that took, or did you just continue on working and doing other
Yeah.
things, or?
I mean, I was off work for 3 and a bit months, so that's a pretty short time period. I did go back too soon. That's not a huge shock. When my voice came back, so your voice gets a little messed up by radiation.
Mhm.
Um, So when my voice came back, I did record a guided imagery album
Mm.
for cancer that's free on Spotify and Amazon and Apple and all those places. So I wanted to let people know about that free resource. It's called Beloved Cancer for guided imagery for cancer. Dr. Jen Green. And for me, there's always these almost like hallmarks or what's the word I'm looking for? Punctuation marks in the healing process where you stop and there's almost feels like a ritual aspect to it, right? The way there's a ritual with going for active surveillance and getting your testing done, even though it's extremely anxiety provoking.
Sure.
Wow, is it ever?
Yeah.
It's also a sort of punctuation evaluation time. So for me, I had done guided imagery training a month before my diagnosis. So that was divine timing. And then
Wow.
here I lose my voice and then I regain my voice.
Where do you go for guided imagery?
That was actually hosted by Corwell. Gail Evo Petricolo, who's been doing customized guided imagery, had done it for years at the hospital and is now in private practice, led that workshop at Corwell in Marlow. Yeah.
That's
So that was
impressive.
divine timing. Yeah. You can't argue with sometimes with this stuff.
No. Yeah, when you look back at your time, as you say, punctuations, the timeline of things, it's like remarkable, a miracle.
Yeah.
And I think that's part of the resiliency, that you can build those blocks and continue to have that in store so that.
And we can choose what to anchor too, right? In terms of anchoring gratitude, that pretty constant practice of trying to shift our nervous systems from fear to love, from fear to connection, to keep ourselves on track.
Sure. And you say community. What types of community? I mean, where did you go for community, or did people just come to you because of your own lifestyle that you had?
I mean, I would say I'm extremely fortunate to be quite embedded in the Jewish community here in West Bloomfield. So that's a deep honor and has been the past 25 years of my life. But I also have circles of community in the dance world, in Toronto, where I'm from, childhood friends, university friends. I mean, it's amazing how people circle back to give you support in times of need.
So tell me, dance community?
Yes.
Tell me about that.
So I've been going to Dance New England, which is a camp in Western Massachusetts, for, oh my gosh, literally 30 years.
Wow.
All kinds of dance. So I do a lot of ecstatic dance. Sometimes that's called Gabrielle Roth 5 rhythms. It can be recognized as that. Some people just call it ecstatic dance. So music, no talking, a meditation in motion.
That sounds fabulous.
Oh, it's
you go once a year or more often than that?
I go all the time. I try and dance 2 to 3 times a week. That's and I had not made space for that before cancer, and since that has become part of my medicine. Yes.
So one of the things that came out in my first round of chemotherapy, I came home with a pump, and I talked about this a little while ago in one of my podcasts. I don't remember which one, but the fact is that I had nausea, and I was home alone. I put on some music, loud music, and I danced. And I just danced around the house, and that nausea was released. Had no more nausea. So the tools that you can have for your body to really reintegrate into or help with each other is remarkable.
Yeah. Movement, and everyone finds their own type of movement that works for them. But I would say healthy movement is so essential in moving the energy through the emotional, psychic energy and the physical treatment. treatment is a lot of taking stuff into your body. So
Yeah.
there's an integration that happens as you're moving in any way, walking in the woods, going to an exercise class, whatever, Pilates, yoga, whatever it is for people, that joyful movement, that coming back home to yourself, to your body, because you have to leave your body sometimes in the hospital setting to avoid some of the suffering, and that's healthy dissociation, I would say, but it's also just so important to come back and belong in your body again.
Yeah, in the hospital, I started. Well, I actually, yeah, in the hospital, I started meditation. And I would say that meditation got me through all those days in the hospital, as well as, I continued to use meditation in my life, because it is.
Yeah, I wanted to share something about meditation, mindfulness-based stress reduction, especially. Just that we now have 2 10-year follow-up studies in breast cancer specifically, that doing a 6 to 8 week mindfulness/stress reduction program will reduce recurrence rates and overall mortality and breast cancer specific mortality. And the recurrence differences were between, one of the studies was 56% and one study was 72% lower recurrence. So, we think of these therapies like meditation as soft, because they're low risk,
Right.
and because the side effects are side benefits, if anything.
Right.
But they also can have an impact on survival rates.
That's good for everyone to know, because I know for a fact that that's true. And having that, it really enhances my life, and I know that it would enhance everyone's life if they embraced it. And there are different ways of doing that. I continue with acupuncture and Pilates and yoga. Those are movements in my body that I choose to do, walking as well. But dance, I would like to look at as a one of those other, and I bought a panda drum, so I actually use that as a, being able to drum a little bit. So there's just and sound bath. There's so many different ways to be able to have a healthier body for ourselves and mind, because it is a mind-body connection that I have found. And as far as where people can find, I'm going to go back first to have you define what is resilience?
Oh, that's a great question. I would define resilience as mobilizing all the tools we can and possibly need to allow for distress tolerance, and to allow us to keep holding life as the wonderful and dreadfully hard thing that it is to hold all together at once.
Very nice.
Sorry for not being more articulate. I didn't really thought that through ahead of time. But, one of the contexts that I still call my herbal tea dispensary. I have a small tea dispensary in my office. That was my midlife crisis. And they're all teas that are used for stress. What teas for stress that goes to digestive upset, teas that goes to, heart area, heart palpitations or tight chest, or teas that go for racing mind. So, and I've always thought of herbs as when we don't have quite enough internal resources to face the situation we're facing. So we need a little help from the outside. And so I like expanding our view of resilience as not just an individual internal thing that we carry, although it is that as well. We have the parts of ourselves that parent ourselves, that help us stay calm, that self-regulate, all of that. But also we can receive help from the outside, whether that's acupuncture, whether that's herbal medicine, whether that's good nutritional supplements or something to treat a deficiency, that we're not, we don't need to, nor can we go it alone, because we are in an ecosystem. And as such, our ecosystem has to support health as well, not just we can't just kind of create that for ourselves. Sure. I do believe we don't buy health. we create it. So I won't, I don't want to get overly commercial in our view of things either. That's another sort of yucky extreme. But I do think we are embedded in our ecosystems. And so we have to address the health of the whole ecosystem and call upon the resources that are there for us.
Sure. And our ecosystem is different than many, many years ago. And people didn't survive as long as we are now. And enhancing that is always good. I think people...
we're always learning. I mean, that's what science is dedicated to, is
Right.
always learning how to try and improve upon.
So I just interviewed last week a woman who's turning 90, really from Michigan. I don't know if you know her, Sonia Friedman, Dr. Sonia Friedman.
Okay,
But she's still a therapist working, but her story is remarkable, and both her cognitive and physical condition is remarkable. And she's, it's just always looking at what are people doing and creating a better life for themselves. You talk about stress. Stress comes in many different ways, whether it's environmental stress or family stress or work stress, or, some of it's to our benefit. If we looked at it as good stress, then that motivates us to do something. And then that chronic stress.
Yeah, that wears and tears. Yeah, I love that we can attune to one another, attune to high functioning people, which is, I think what I perceive this podcast to be all about is sharing. We are all learning from each other, but there's a deeper way that we can experientially attune.
Sure.
When we meet someone, hear their voice, get a sense of them, and they inspire us to be that way too.
And that goes back to when you first meet somebody for the first time, being present. And if we can be present to each other, what do we get to learn from people that we have no idea their life, that they could embellish our life with, and really provide such a rich portion of newness to our life. And you have done that for me.
Thank you. It's been such an honor to be a part of your circle of care, Pam.
Thank you so much. Where do people find you?
People can find me at drjengreen.com. People can find a local naturopathic physician or an integrative oncology provider generally. Knowoncology.org, so KNOW, oncology.org, has a provider network. And those are providers who are accessing the research. Some of them are acupuncturists, some of them are pharmacists. It's multidisciplinary, but that's a good referral source. And if you want a naturopathic oncologist specifically, then OncAMP, Oncology Association of Naturopathic Physicians, is what that stands for, .org, also has a referral system. So you can search by location or specialty or whatnot. And I brought a Rachel Naomi Remen quote. I don't know.
That's great.
Because I think it's a lot of what you're doing here with this podcast, Pam. So this is from My Grandfather's Blessings by Rachel Naomi Remen. When you listen, the integrity and wholeness in others moves closer. Your attention strengthens it and makes it easier for them to hear it in themselves. It has been my experience that presence is a more powerful catalyst for change than analysis, and that we can know beyond doubt things we can never understand. In some mysterious way, the life in someone may use us to strengthen itself.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Gosh, so beautiful.
Thank you for sharing.
And isn't that what it feels like?
Yeah,
that the life in someone may use us to strengthen itself. Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing yourself, your wisdom, your brilliance, and everything about you. Thank you for joining the conversation today. If you are seeking help for yourself or a loved one, please reach out to our Feinberg Consulting team at 248-538-5425. That's 248-538-5425. And check out our website at feinbergcare.com. I'm grateful for our guests and all who have joined us today. Make sure you follow us on Apple, Spotify, or anywhere you listen to podcasts.